As the current chairperson of the African Union, I am honored to be able to serve as the co-chair of TICAD 9. This TICAD process began in 1993, and since it has discussed sustainable cooperation and partnership between Japan and African nations, and it has served as a very important platform to strengthen our cooperation. Therefore, Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru, the government of Japan, and to the people of Japan, I would like to take this opportunity to the hospitality and welcome you had offered to all of the delegations from the African Union. Japan is an energetic and innovative country. You have rebounded from deep problems and recovered. So you are a model for many African countries that are faced with many challenges. You are the source of inspiration. And in this context, we need to promote Africa-Japan partnership and promote the development of the African continent. Cooperation is necessary. There has to be a platform for practical action. So TICAD is a very important venue, and I would like to take this opportunity to praise the Japanese government for taking such an initiative. Approximately 30 years have passed since the launch of TICAD, and this is the 9th installment of TICAD. And there's no doubt that TICAD has made great achievements. And for Africa to develop once again, a common vision had been established through the TICAD process. To date, we have together taken stock of various experiences, and tapping such experiences, we have used our strategic experience into innovative solutions. And since the past 2 years, Agenda 2063 is well aligned with the TICAD goals. Heads of delegations, guests, Africa is faced with challenges that is decelerating economic growth. We are suffering from such challenges. Not only that, in addition, like other countries around the world, we were affected by the pandemic, COVID-19. It was a negative impact, but with international cooperation, we were able to overcome the challenge, but it unveiled our shortfalls. We need to further accelerate the efforts in order to achieve development in Africa, which has been undermined by the COVID-19 pandemic. Facing such reality, time left to us is very much limited. Each country has its national plan. We also have the African continent plan, but we need to gain back the pace. Health is a critical area. Education, food security, energy infrastructure buildup, they have to be restarted in order to live up to the fundamental needs of the people, and mobility and commerce that mobilizes human resources have to be built up in order to resolve the shortfalls in infrastructural development. What are the sources of these difficulties? The central challenge of the African continent is poverty. How should we resolve the issue of poverty? In this context, SDGs are especially important tools. And along with 2016, Agenda 2063, we will be able to utilize SDGs as well as Agenda 2063 as a major driving force to solve African challenges. The probability to achieve these goals would depend on interdependency between countries. We are living in interdependency, and we have no option than multilateralism. When we acknowledge that fact, the probability of success will further be elevated. Under multilateralism, based upon the spirit of mutual assistance, we need to face the challenges humanity faces, especially for the sake of global peace and security. With uncertainties rising in the international community, we tend to be refueled by protectionism, and international law, which are supposed to be the norms of relationship between countries, is being undermined, and such protectionism goes against our principles. And in this context, we praise Japan for fighting against such trends. Multilateralism leads to fair and sustainable international order, and that is the very platform, and it is completely aligned with the ideals of the African Union. And these are well aligned with peace and stability, economy, and society, which are the three pillars of TICAD. Such concrete concepts are important for us who are trying to proceed in the avenue of socio-economic development. Heads of states, guests, Japan has always been a trustworthy partner for Africa. Once again, we need to remind ourselves of this fact. Our country, Angola, has benefited from this relationship. Japan is a great country, and for the Angola economy, it's been a great friend. Many projects have been supported by Japan under concessional terms and conditions in providing finance. So the financial approach by Japan to Africa is much different from other donors and creditors. For African countries, having access to international finance stands against very high, strong barriers. The availability of international finance is difficult and limited, and many African countries have been rated as high risk by many credit agencies, and therefore infrastructure, electrification, industrialization, technological innovation, which are areas that require investment, is not being granted access to sufficient finance to supply the necessary investment into those projects. Based upon the strategic partnership between Japan and Africa, which is completely aligned with the priorities of the African Union, to which I currently serve as the chair, we must do more. Japan is an indispensable partner for infrastructure development in Africa. In October of this year, Africa Development Infrastructure Finance International Cooperation, IFAD, will be held in October, and this theme will be taken up as a specific agenda item, and I want to officially invite the government of Japan to this upcoming conference. MDBs, development aid agencies, creditor nations must provide finance to Africa for infrastructure development that will lead to the strengthening of the global economy and recovery of the global economy. And it's very important that these entities make efficient and effective proposals to that end. And I once again would like to reiterate that point. Heads of states, guests, ladies and gentlemen, at this very important conference, the decisions we make will determine the future of African economy and the livelihoods of the people of Africa. In order for our decisions to have impact for improvement, we have to resolve all the conflicts that still continue to exist on our continent. We have engaged in persistent efforts, but that has to lead to permanent peace. Today in Africa, a few peacekeeping reconciliation processes are underway, and part of those processes have gone through meetings for reconciliation and peace, and there are negotiations that have entered into a brighter phase. However, unfortunately, there are still some conflicts where we have not seen enough progress, where we see no prospects for solution. In Africa, in order to calm down conflicts depending on force, we have bold determination, unwavering determination. As the chair of the AU Security Council meeting, along on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, we are going to be hosting a special session at the head of states level. And at this conference, we would like to analyze the sources of African conflicts and come up with a solution that is most effective in resolving those root causes of conflicts that are currently prevailing in the continent. And DRC Eastern Part conflict has to be resolved, and the Great Lakes region complete peace has to be granted. We're beginning to see some bright signs for resolution, but unfortunately, we are not seeing progress in the Sudan conflict, and it's going towards a direction against our hopes. But dialogue is still possible if both sides, not just one side, but both sides demonstrate their will. There's still avenue for solutions. There had been unsuccessful examples in the past, unsuccessful attempts in the past, but we have to be persistent. Until true peace prevails, we must never give up just because we have become tired of making efforts. In the Middle East, in Gaza, there has been a genocide of Palestinians, and without being able to do anything, we are just observing. They are being kicked out of their own territory, and they are being forced to go to other countries and seek asylum in a strange country. And this is something that the international community must never accept. And the war in Ukraine is undermining the stability and peace of the European continent at large, and resolution has to come from the negotiating table. And in order to guide the parties to peaceful dialogue, many attempts are being made, which we praise. Not just finishing this war, but the bloodshed, the possibility of bloodshed in the European continent, all has to be eradicated. Most recently, summit between President Trump and President Putin was conducted in Alaska, and it could be a starting point to promote more dialogue. Russia versus Ukraine, which are used to be brother countries that have now a distance between them may be able to come to the negotiating table once again. In recent years, the principles of international law and UN Charter has been completely ignored in some instances. Decades ago, they were the norms of relationship between countries. They prevented conflicts or use of force, and it was made for such purpose to prevent use of force amongst nations. Further, UN Security Council permanent members, nuclear states, are becoming negative models, which we should not be following. In order to change this reality, reform of the UN Security Council is necessary, and a different approach or prevention or solution against conflicts that threaten global peace must be taken. So the reform has to take place at the earliest possible timing. Heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the members of the AU, I call upon the Japanese friends and partners. Thank you for this well-prepared conference, and we have high hopes of the deliverables that would be coming out of this conference. In order to prevent Africa from receding and continue to develop, we are hopeful for continued support from Japan. Thank you.
Develop 35,000 healthcare and medical personnel, and they will definitely contribute in achieving UHC in African countries. For Gavi Alliance, in the coming 5 years, we will contribute at least $550 million. And we would like to support Africa's vaccine supply. In the education sector, which is the primary foundation of human resource development, we will improve learning for 10 million children and develop 150,000 advanced personnel, highly skilled workers. The third area is regional integration and connectivity within and beyond Africa. For Africa's countries' further growth, besides enhanced industrial capacity, regional integration beyond national borders and strengthened connectivity are very necessary. To strengthen Africa's regional integration, Japan will support the implementation and promotion of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We will establish a study committee on strengthening economic partnership between Japan and Africa, comprising Japan and African representatives from industry, academia, and government. Japan has historically imported much of platinum from Africa, and we will expand cooperation further. Through the resilient and inclusive supply chain enhancement, rice partnership, and other initiatives to ensure a stable supply of Africa's abundant resources, including copper and cobalt, which are used in hybrid and electric vehicles. We will also launch a new region-wide co-creation for Common Agenda initiative that promotes logistics in the Nakara corridor, which contributes to strengthening mineral resource supply while simultaneously advancing regional industrial development. Strengthening open connectivity within and beyond Africa is also important. We will launch the Economic Region Initiative for Indian Ocean Africa to invigorate trade and investment between Africa and the Indian Ocean region, contributing to Africa's regional integration and industrial development. Peace and stability, economic growth, and inclusive societies are interconnected. To realize a virtuous cycle of peace, growth, and stability in Africa, Japan will work together with Africa through contributions to the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, the Africa Mine Action Platform, and also promote the WPS, or Women, Peace and Security. We will work closely together with Africa. Africa now participates as a responsible player in shaping the world order. Japan will work with Africa to build responsible global governance that further reflects the voices of African countries in the international community. We will cooperate with African countries towards strengthening the rule of law and good governance, which are included in the goals of Agenda 2063. Japan will advance efforts aimed at achieving the SDGs based on the concept of human security. And today, we are privileged to have Secretary General Guterres with us, amongst us. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. Japan will take joint action with African countries toward concrete progress in United Nations Security Council reform. Japan also intends to work with Africa to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific based on the rule of law, which Japan advocated back in TICAD 6. Now we are entering an era when solutions originating from Africa will save the international community, including Japan. Japan wishes to remain a reliable partner that works together, a trusted partner with Africa, providing solutions to one another. As proof of Japan's commitment to action, we would definitely put into action what we have promised. And as a testimony to this, I would like to report to you that more than 300 cooperation documents have been concluded this time. I am happy to report this at this occasion. Japan believes in Africa's future, and Japan will promote investment into Africa. Japan, together with all the countries of the world, we should laugh together and cry together, and also to sweat and toil together. As Japanese, as was true in Asia in the past and in Africa, we would like to laugh with all of you in Africa, together cry with you, and together toil and sweat together with you in Africa. Dr. Hideo Noguchi, as I have already introduced to you at the outset, he has made research into yellow fever in Africa, as well as Central and South America, and especially in Ghana. He has left as a legacy. I didn't come here to teach. I came here to learn. Those were the words of Dr. Noguchi. He did not go to Africa to teach to Africa. He said, I came to Africa to learn from you. Dr. Noguchi adhered to field-based approach, learning from Africa and working to solve problems on the ground in Ghana. That was 100 years ago. But his words are very true even today. Japan, from 100 years ago, we have tried to bring solutions to the issues and challenges. We have always felt the same way. In the 21st century, Japan and the African leaders gathered here should unite with each other and co-create innovative solutions to confront the challenges facing Africa as well as the world. For the people of Africa and for the future of Africa, and also for the future of the whole world, I hope that we will be able to work closely with all of you together to make this conference a great success.
TICAD has embodied the spirit of multilateralism, grounded in mutual respect, shared responsibility, and a deep belief in Africa's potential. With the world's youngest population, abundant natural resources, and a vibrant entrepreneurial spirit, Africa is poised for progress. And this year's theme, Co-Create Innovative Solutions with Africa, reminds us that these same strengths can help shape a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world inside and beyond Africa's borders. Especially as we accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals through investment, reform, and partnerships. We meet at a time of interconnected crises and deep inequalities. Tackling these crises requires a clear focus not only on development for Africa, but on development with Africa. And I salute Japan for making this the focus of its cooperation with the continent. Let me highlight 5 priorities for our shared journey forward. First, we must reform institutions of global governance, both political and financial, to reflect today's realities. Africa must have a stronger voice in shaping the decisions that affect its future. That includes long overdue reform of the Security Council, where incredibly Africa has no permanent member and other regions remain underrepresented. And it includes an overhaul of today's unjust and unfair international financial architecture that must enhance African representation and endorse a strong African voice in the decisions being made. Meanwhile, we need bold action on debt relief. Today, 34 countries spend more on debt service than on health and education. The Seville commitment points to solutions by increasing the capacity of governments to mobilize domestic resources, including through tax reform, and by establishing a more effective framework for debt relief and tripling the lending capacity of multilateral development banks and their engagement in de-risking private investment in the African continent. Second, we must invest in sustainable global value chains and regional integration. Africa's path for prosperity must focus on adding value to its raw materials, creating decent jobs, and building resilience, taking profit of the African continental free trade area. And we must also address Africa's energy paradox. Africa has enormous renewables potential, but receives just 2% of global investment into renewables, and 600 million Africans live without electricity. And Africa is also home to the critical minerals required to power renewable technologies. But the countries hosting them must be the ones to benefit first and most, while adding value to local and global value chains. Third, we must harness digital innovation, including artificial intelligence, for development. But the African people are still suffering from a wide digital divide. Japan's technological leadership can help close this divide and ensure that technology helps African countries catch up with adequate digital public infrastructure rather than being left behind. And this includes ensuring that all countries can harness the incredible potential of artificial intelligence to power progress for all as defined in the Pact for the Future. We have just shared a report outlining innovative financing options to build AI capacity in developing countries. AI must stand for Africa included. Fourth, we need people-centered development. Young people are the builders of Africa's future. Let us invest in their skills, in education, particularly STEM, and ensure decent jobs, social protection, and a seat at the decision-making table. Let us invest in women's full participation across economies, societies, and political systems. Fifth, we must recognize that peace and prosperity go hand in hand. Sustainable development requires sustainable peace. By silencing the guns, as the African Union clearly points out, and by ending violence in all its forms and strengthening the social cohesion and stability that can attract investment and business to Africa. Excellencies, we have the roadmap, the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, and the African Union's Agenda 2063. Let's co-create solutions that can build a future of dignity, opportunity, and peace for all, and I thank you.
The World Bank Group is honored to stand along Japan, the second largest shareholder of the World Bank Group and a major contributor to IDA. As co-organizer of TICAD, a partnership that has evolved into a powerful platform for Africa transformation, we are most grateful for your support. I'm today representing the World Bank Group on behalf of our president, Ajay Banga, who regrets not being here, but fully supports TICAD objective for Africa. The theme of this conference is co-create innovative solution in Africa. I will just pause 2 seconds here to say that I've witnessed it myself, my own hands, my own eyes. I was actually Minister of Economy and Finance in my country, in Senegal, in 2000, 25 years ago. So the spirit that the Prime Minister described in his cooperation with African country was not only witnessed in my own country, but also in the rest of the continent I visited through the 25 last years in my professional career. Indeed, we need to move beyond the potential to realize tangible growth and development, especially as Africa's youthful population, expanding market, technological innovation, and vast natural resources position the continent for accelerated progress in the years ahead. Constrained public funding, shift in the global trade are posing new challenges for many low-income countries. But within this challenge, Africa lies greatest opportunities. One clear example is Africa continental free trade areas. It could potentially create the world's largest free market with 1.3 billion people ready to trade and invest across borders. The continent's vast natural resources are matched by even more valuable asset, its youth. Over the next 3 decades, Africa will continue to experience the fastest increase in growth in youth population entering the labor market of all regions. Since the growing working age population can deliver a demographic dividend that transforms the continent. But Africa's potential is not destiny. Without decisive actions, particularly investing in skills and education, this dividend becomes a crisis. The prospect of hundreds of millions of unemployed youth has serious implications for global security and prosperity. This is why the World Bank Group has made job creation central to our mission. At the World Bank Group, 3 interconnected pillars guide our strategic response. First, laying foundations through IBRD and IDA, we invest in essential infrastructure, health and education. Second, in knowledge and policy advice, we provide governments with analysis and tools to attract investment and promote transparency. Third, in mobilizing capital, through IFC and MIGA, we are innovating to bring private investment to where it is needed most using financial solution and risk guarantee. Last year, the World Bank Group committed $180 billion to development, including our mobilization of resources. And that was possible only with the support of Japan, particularly its contribution to IDA. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank once again Japan. We are today launching a transformative initiative with the UN system, with the African Development Bank, with the African Union. Let me cite a couple of them. The first one is Mission 300. Our flagship initiative in partnership with those institutions is to bring 300 million African electricity to 300 million Africans by 2030. And I would like to thank all the heads of government who are part of this initiative and the support they are bringing us to reach this goal. This isn't simply about lighting homes, it's about powering industries, enabling digital transformation, creating jobs, and drive Africa's economic future. The second one is agriculture, and we'll be announcing in the coming months a large initiative that aims at increasing significantly the production of agriculture in Africa, building on the model of M300 that we are developing for electricity. I would like to say that 3/4 of IDA resources are going to Africa, and the continent is benefiting from our efforts. I would like to thank Japan for this contribution once again. And as we go and move towards that objective, universal health coverage continue to become a priority, and is a priority of the government of Japan, and we've been working with them since TICAD 5 and even before. We have created hubs to support these initiatives. You have the hubs that have been created in Japan on health. Another hub has been created for business development because we would like to bring more Japanese companies to invest in Africa. But I will not stop without talking about something which is very important, the resilience. Japan has demonstrated resilience, particularly resilience in a situation of natural disasters. And many African countries today are hit by some natural events which are affecting their development. Cape Verde is a recent example with a hurricane, and other African countries are today recording floods. So building on the experience of Japan in fighting these natural disasters will be also another priority of the World Bank Group. As we launch TICAD 9, we see Africa not as it was, but as it will be, a continent where every young person finds meaningful work and possesses the skills gained through quality education and health system to thrive in tomorrow's economy, where business has the capital to grow and innovate, where local solutions address local challenges. This vision requires all of us. Government must create enabling conditions, development partner must provide expertise and resources, and the private sector must bring innovation and investment. Together, we can unlock Africa's vast potential, not for Africa alone, but for a world that meets Africa's dynamism, creativity, and youth. TICAD is our moment to transform partnership into action, to move from dialogue to delivery, and potential to prosperity.